Hey everybody, Nick here, and tonight we're going to do a little disassembly and maintenance on this little guy here. This is the Southard Knives Mini Tolk. So let's give you something to talk about here. Alrighty. Interesting piece here. Actually, the fact that this is disassemblable at all is sort of a long story. When I first got the knife from Brad, and I believe I had one of the very first mini Tolks out there because I made my order very, very early. But the original backspacer, which was actually Ty Maskus, was just so tightly fit. And he kind of sent a disclaimer when I got the knife, like, Nick, that the backspacer might be a little too tight in there. In fact, it was so tight that it wasn't even fully seated on one of the sides there, and that made the action just not very good. So I just couldn't get the knife apart. I tried everything. Pardon me, and I just couldn't. There's the pivot collar coming off with the pivot there. Whereas now, well, not unfortunately, in fact, quite fortunately, the knife comes apart pretty readily here. I mean, it's still a nice tight fit with the backspacer, but as we can see right about now, the knife will come apart readily. I had to send it back to him for that to happen, but there we go. And in the process, I ended up having him switch to the copper and whatnot, so no problem there. So, a couple of things to highlight here. First off, you can actually see the inside of this knife is very, very skeletonized. You've got these big pockets here, which is great. You can also see that he's got a lock bar insert. I also very much enjoy this little area here that really lets the thumb get into position here. But as a result, this is a super lightweight knife. And little detail here, the Southard knives, those are the kinds of things I always like to see on a higher-end piece. So, yeah, that's good. Next thing, you can see that this is using Brad Southard's own bearings. He, much like the Grimsmo's, has decided to make his own bearings. That's kind of crazy, let's be real here, but, can't argue with it, right? And, at some level, making a plastic bearing cage and then fitting them with bearings is, well, it shouldn't be that much of a challenge for a high-end maker like Brad, especially with CNC abilities. So, yeah, anyways, and he seems to have done a great job of it. There's no complaint whatsoever. I don't mean to downplay his achievement there, but, compared to fitting a frame lock and whatnot, I can't imagine that that's too crazy different. Okay. Oh, that's not gunk. That's a number 1. Is that the serial number? I wonder. Could this be Mini Tolk number 1? Yeah, because each one is labeled. Holy crap, this may be the first Mini Tolk ever. At least first non-prototype. Can't argue with that, I suppose. Alrighty. So there we go. Neat. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off the pivot here. The pivot on this side appears to be fixed in place. It could be that I might be able to pop this screw out, but I don't really feel the need to fight it. There is no reason for me to do that, so I'm not even going to do that. Instead, I'll just kind of wipe and not really have any trouble. Similarly, right here. It's nice. The matching serialization, very subtle on each one. Number 1. Cool. It's nice to finally be freaking number 1 at something. Okay, so is this gunk? No, it's just... I wonder what that is, actually. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little bit of blackness inside there. There's a little bit of darkness inside many, but there's a little bit of blackness inside this pivot. It's less of a metaphysical claim for a pivot, but still. Alrighty, got weird quickly. Moving along. Don't give in to the darkness of your blade, stop pin groove, that is. Cleaning these guys off. Interestingly, he appears to be using different bearings than the Grimsmo's. These are a ceramic of some variety or another, along with the ceramic bearing for the detent ball here. So, but yeah, that's, and the reason that's interesting is because I know that Brad and the Grimsmo's have worked together, and that's kind of one of the Grimsmo-ish things that he's done. And by work together, I mean they seem to be good friends, and my understanding is that John and Eric were helping Brad with the CNC end of things, even though Brad is a very well-experienced knife maker in and of himself. So, anyways, let's go ahead and put this guy back together, and I'm actually going to use the 5-weight nano oil, because the action on this guy is very, very quick. And so I think the ultra lightweight oil might be helpful here. So I'm applying a little bit of it to there and to there. I'm going to go ahead and apply some here and here as well. That'll just let things be very quick. Okay, that was a little too much. There we go. And then I am going to apply the 10 weight right here to the detent ball path. And one thing to highlight as well as we're looking at this is the detent ball ramp right there, which is a nice little detail that I'm glad to see him get right. Okay, so we are ready to go back together here. And the way that we're going to do that is by starting off by dropping in a bearing. And we'll spin it around a little bit just to get some of that oil on there. Next thing is we're going to drop on the blade itself. No problem there. And, am I forgetting anything? Yeah, hey, the other bearing. That's a useful thing to include. Rotate this to get some of the oil onto the bearing there in general. Number 1. Neat. And now for this guy, because the backspacer has relatively tight tolerances, I'm going to actually try and drop the backspacer on first. Come on now. Oh, by the way, you can see the lanyard hole back here is nicely done. All right. Let's drop this onto here. There we go. And just had to lift the lock bar a little bit. Oh, not quite in there perfectly. See here, I'm just trying to get these posts seated in the back here. Oh, that was cool. Am I bleeding? Oh, hashtag not a brilliant man, this one. All right, there we go. There we go. That's pinched. Huh, I managed to not cut myself. That's nice. In case you didn't see, the blade disengaged as the lock bar moved out of the way, and it kind of fell shut right onto my knuckle there, but it must have hit at a nice oblique angle, so I didn't get myself injured. That's always pleasant. Thank you very much, Blade, for not injuring me. Weird. Alrighty. Hashtag not a brilliant man. Where the heck is my Loctite? Gotta be a Loctite. There we go. It was hiding. Gonna use a blue Loctite here. Blue 242, except this is a stick, so that works still. Go ahead and drop this in here. There we go. Nice threading, no problem there. These appear to be maybe custom-built screws. I haven't seen any quite like it, so I'm assuming so. There we go. What is this doing here? Are you stripping? My God, it's stripping copper. Oh, because it goes straight into the copper of the spacer. That's no freaking good. Here, let me loosen this up a little bit. Did it really just strip out that copper? I hope it not. There we go. All right. Went in a little deeper. It had a little tiny hint of copper in there, but maybe it was just... That's odd. Not such a fan of that, actually, now that I think about it. Maybe copper as a backspacer is not so stellar when you're going straight into it. Maybe it's fine for other situations. Okay. That's not the right size at all. This is a T, by the way, these are T8 over here, and T15 on the front there. I always appreciate a nice big pivot screw, so can't argue with it. Then put a little Loctite on there. Go ahead, pop this through. And I'm just making sure that I've got the pivot collar in position there, so it's not pinched too tightly. Okay. Centering is perfect. Maybe dialed down a little too tightly here. Let's see. No. There we go. Beautiful. We appear to be all set here. Alrighty. Well, there you go. Brad Southard Mini Tolk. Keep an eye out for the full review coming up before too long here. But anyways, hope this is interesting, and have yourselves just an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.